Hello there. Welcome back to the final episode of season 11 of Star Wars in a Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. I'm Eli.
I'm Jacob.
And today, episode 92, we are doing our retrospective on season 1 of Star Wars The Bad Batch. We're doing our normal retrospective problems. We're looking back on the season as a whole. This is being recorded on the same day as episode 91, and as such, we are going to be talking about this without talking about season 2 of The Bad Batch. I've seen the first 3 episodes. Jacob has not. So we're going to talk about it without talking about that stuff. But without any further ado, Jacob, you want to kick this stuff off?
Yeah, for my overall thoughts on the season, I thought it was a really nice season. I thought it was pretty nice. I definitely enjoyed it more the second time around. I think it
Absolutely.
benefits
I
from
I agree
everyone.
with that.
It had some really good episodes. It had some really great moments. I thought the themes were really interesting. It was really, really thought-provoking, really gave me a lot to chew on every single episode. I think it was weakened a bit by kind of obviously the very episodic, the structure, the format of it all, kind of a little bit too mission of the day oriented. But I mean, that's kind of par for the course with the kind of show it is. It is kind of a little bit of a younger, not necessarily a full-on kids show, but it is marketed. It is aimed at a little bit of the younger side of the audience. So with that in mind, I think it does a really good job of, balancing out making it accessible to younger fans, people in elementary, and also, throwing in a lot of stuff that fans of any age and maturity level can appreciate. So overall, with that in mind, I think I can cut it a little slack and say that it was a really great season.
Yeah. I think I'm just gonna read what my notes say because honestly, I'll expand on it a little later. But I wrote beautiful season altogether. Really great display of how the Empire rises as the major galactic power. The dynamics between Crosshair, Hunter, and Omega drive the season forward. Wrecker and Tech have some good moments in there, but I really wish Echo had gotten more time to shine. We know him extraordinarily well, yet well-known parts of his character weren't explored until episode 14 of the season, which seems extremely late.
Here,
Season
here.
2 season 2 already seems to be fixing this, which is good. I feel like after replacements, the third episode, the show took quite a while to get going again. It lost a bit of its luster after that with Cornered and Rampage, and also again after Ryloth with Infested and a bit of War Mantle. And I hope it doesn't fall into too many more episode of the week pacing challenges in season 2. The other episodes, however, were phenomenal. The beginning arc, the Ryloth arc, Common Ground, the Braca arc, and the two-part finale aren't just good episodes of Star Wars television. They're downright great, with powerful messages and interesting world building around an era that we really didn't know too much about before in canon. Tons of fun and energetic action sequences. Specific shout out to the escape on Raxus Secundus and the ion cannon sequence on Braca as two really engaging action sequences. As of now, I've seen the first 3 episodes of season 2, and they do a really great job of building on what we've gotten in season 1. But the first season absolutely deserves all the credit in the world for building on the foundations of the directly post Revenge of the Sith era. I obviously I wrote it, but I stand by everything I wrote. I'll just say that it's a really great foundation. I think this is one of the most underrated pieces of Star Wars content that exists in canon right now. I think a lot of people count out the Bad Batch because it is not as instantly memorable to them as the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels. And I think that is honestly, in my opinion, just a symptom of time. I think Clone Wars and Rebels have had that much more time to marinate with people. And I think that the Bad Batch was released at such a more crowded time for Star Wars. And I don't think it got a chance as much to leave its mark yet. I think it will. But I think that people who aren't as crazy about the Bad Batch, I can encourage them to give it another chance. I'm not saying it's the greatest piece of Star Wars ever to exist ever, but it has some really fantastic, rich themes and rich just episodes and stuff to really chew on. And I feel like the Bad Batch could be a really great a thing with animation to like really like get a bit of everything. That's what I'm really excited about for the rest of season 2 is there isn't a lot that the Bad Batch can't do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of places that they can't go. and the lack of limitations on this show as compared to other shows is extremely exciting to me.
Yeah, I was really impressed by how many different, every Star Wars project, especially the shows, they all kind of have their guiding questions. I feel like the Bad Batch especially was asking so many different guiding questions
Yeah,
every week that it just made it. I think I really enjoyed the rewatch because there was just so much to sink your teeth into. Whether the episode
absolutely.
was whether the episode or good was good or bad or memorable or not memorable. There are very few of them that are at the very least. I don't think any of them that I would say at the very least are flat out uninteresting, which I can't always say for
I,
every other
I
Star
would
Wars
I
show.
would disagree with you on that one, but the number that I feel like were for me uninteresting is extremely low.
Yeah, it's low at the very least. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think I think as time goes on, I think it'll start to resonate a bit more. I mean, like Rebels, even after a lot of people didn't like the slow start, even after season 4 and even after the show concluded, I feel like it really took a couple of years for it to really start resonating
yeah,
with a
I
lot of
agree
people
with that.
to find its
Yeah,
praise. And I hope that season 1 of the Bad Batch happens because I saw it got dismissed pretty quickly by a lot of people, which is fine,
yeah,
different strokes for different folks. But I think this show does a lot of things pretty well that can go unnoticed if you're not looking for them.
yeah. I also think that the Bad Batch has hit a bit of a curse that I feel like a lot of stuff recently has. I feel like a lot of the Disney Star Wars stuff has been, and this is just my opinion, but I feel like it has been a little harshly criticized compared to stuff pre the Disney acquisition. By the way, I'm counting Rebels. The Rebels is the only exception, by the way. Rebels, I think, like I'm putting Rebels in with stuff like the Clone Wars and the prequels and the originals, and even like classics from Legends like The Force Unleashed or KOTOR or what have you. But I feel like people have these high and lofty expectations for, and I'm not saying like I'm not just talking about like the sequels, or I'm talking about like stuff like the sequels. I'm talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm talking about The Mandalorian. I'm talking about The Bad Batch. I'm talking about a lot of the stuff. And I'm not saying that people are bad for criticizing this stuff, but I think that a lot of this stuff has been released in such a negative era for fan commentary that I think people sometimes default to those negative. And I think that as time goes on, I think things like The Bad Batch, things like The Mandalorian, which, by the way, and I'm not saying everybody hates The Mandalorian, but I think that The Mandalorian is going to look way better 10 years from now than it does now to most people. I think The Bad Batch 10 years from now is going to look way better than to a lot of people than it does now. I think that I think a lot of these things are going to age better than they look like they're aging right now.
Yeah, I think that many fan bases throughout different medium are like this, and Star Wars is no different. A lot of fan bases are kind of in geekdom to some extent, like Star Wars. Really, people are really, really wary of new things, and I think that because of the kind of the receptions and regardless, I'm not talking about the not passing judgment on anything, not trying to start anything right now, but because of kind of the receptions and the way that a lot of people felt about some of the Star Wars projects that Disney has put out, the sequel movies, Rebels, maybe for people who didn't like that. I feel like I feel like people now, a lot of fans now are more jaded, substantially more jaded now than they were 3 to 5 years ago.
Yeah,
That's what I feel.
I definitely agree with that.
Or 5 to 7 or pretty. I mean I feel like The Last Jedi kind of was the thing that really opened the floodgates. Maybe that's just me, but
I
of
think it opened the floodgates from
changing
for
changing
a
people's
certain part of
attitude.
the internet. I think it
Yeah.
I think it opened the floodgates for the fandom menace. And I think the fandom menace kind of then swept through and like kind of had their impact on all of the different sides of the internet. And I'm not saying that everybody who hates The Last Jedi is Phantom Menace. I'm saying that I think everybody, whether or not, whatever your opinions on The Last Jedi, whatever your opinions on The Rise of Skywalker, whatever your opinions on any of this stuff is, has been in some way affected by the Phantom Menace discourse.
I think in general, regardless of the reason, I think most people, at least from what I've seen more, most people seem a little bit more jaded and wary
Yeah, absolutely.
than they were 5 to 7 years.
I will say this to give Lucasfilm a lot of credit on this part. The fact that the Bad Batch is getting a second season is fantastic. I think the Bad Batch, from what I've seen, it has been one of the least popular of the Star Wars series. And I'm not saying like that people aren't watching it. I'm saying that I believe that people, I remember like just a lot of people being very lukewarm about it. And I'm not saying it doesn't have its fans. It does. It absolutely does. And that's why I'm glad that they're sticking to their guns with this, that they're not caving to a lot of the internet noise that, oh, this sucks, or oh, this is too cameo focused, or oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm glad that people are recognizing, like that a lot of people are recognizing the true greatness that is the Bad Batch. And I'm glad that Lucasfilm isn't caving to people are like people who are talking about like bad faith criticism. I'm not talking about like real legitimate criticism or like oh, why do we have to see it through these people, or why do we care about the clones anymore, or oh, this is just Clone Wars season 8, or all that kind of stuff. I'm glad that they see that they're sticking to the Bad Batch and they're sticking to this show to explore this era, because it's really all we got right now.
Yeah, I hope that they expand the world building and the scope of what we've seen even further.
Yeah,
in season.
I think you'll be very excited about. I'm very excited about all 3 episodes we've gotten so far in season 2 of the Bad Batch, and I really hope you will be too. I think there's some really great stuff in there. I'll just say that.
Right.
Should we proceed on to our rankings?
Yeah, ranking the episodes.
Can you read your list from 16 to 1?
All right. From 16 to 1. In 16th, I had Rampage. In 15th, I had Bounty Lost. In 14th, I had Common Ground. In 13th, I had Infested. In 12th, I had Devil's Deal. In 11th, I had Rescue on Ryloth. In 10th, I had Cornered. In 9th, I had Cut and Run. In 8th, I had Decommissioned. And 7th best episode was Reunion. 6th for me was Camino Lost. 5th was Replacements. 4th was Battle Scars. 3rd was War Mantle. My second favorite episode was Return to Camino. And my favorite episode of season 1 of the Bad Batch was Aftermath.
Very nice. Very, very nice. I'll read mine 16 to you. Okay. Right. Number 16, Infested. Number 15, Cornered. Number 14, Rampage. Number 13, War Mantle. Number 12, Replacements. Number 11, Aftermath. Number 10, Common Ground. Number 9, Devil's Deal. Number 8, Rescue on Ryloth. Number 7, Decommissioned. Number 6, Camino Lost. Number 5, Return to Camino. Number 4, Bounty Lost. Number 3, Cut and Run. Number 2, Battle Scars. And number 1, Reunion. We had incredibly different lists. What do you want to cover with these lists, Jacob?
Where do you want to start?
I'm interested to hear your opinions, because I had Bounty Lost at number 4 and you had it second to last.
I just didn't really, ranking these episodes were very, very hard for me, I want to say, because I think the Bad Batch, I think, works the best because there's so many episodes, I think, in the middle that kind of drag a little bit and feel like a little bit of a filler or just a little bit too mission of the day-y. I think they work better when you kind of think of them as one continuous story, and then just, kind of focus on the parts that you like, focus on the things that matter, and then spend less time thinking about parts that don't. I just think that the way this episode came together it just didn't really resonate with me. I didn't really enjoy, just the pacing, the tempo of this episode that much. I just didn't really, the execution just wasn't really there for me.
Okay, yeah, no, that's totally fair. For me, I really like the world building. I like Borovio a lot. This showdown between Cad Bane and Fennec Shand is fantastic, and
That is true. There is that going for it.
yeah, yeah, and for me, I feel like I divide this season into two parts basically. There's the rest of the season. There's 14 ranging from good to fantastic episodes, and then there's Cornered and Infested, which neither of them really do much for me. And yeah, I guess for me, I think you probably regard the episodes a lot more equally than I do, because for me it is really the 14 and then the 2. And I guess I was just shocked to see it that low.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's kind of, there's the top 6 or 8, Aftermath, Return to Camino, War Mantle, Battle Scars, Replacements, Camino Lost, and then all the other ones, they just kind of like, yeah, they all have their ups and downs, but they're none of them are particularly amazing as single episodes.
I'm surprised you had Reunion that low, because actually, well, let's not talk about Reunion now because that's my favorite. Let's talk about, let's see, what are other episodes that we disagreed on quite a bit. War Mantle. Let's talk about War Mantle. You liked that episode a lot more than I did.
I thought it was one of the most memorable episodes. I loved seeing Gregor. I really like kind of the mystery aspect of it, the world building aspect of it. It just really kind of, it all just clicked for me in that episode, and I really liked what they did there.
That's fantastic. For me, I like a lot of what you've talked about. For me, it's about the pacing. For me, I really feel like it should have been 2 episodes. I feel like they tried to get through things a little too fast.
That's fair. That's fair. I see that.
And I think that they had 2 very strong plots that both deserve their own episode, but they were kind of jammed into 1 episode. But I still very much like it. I like it. Like, the gap between War Mantle and Rampage, which is my number 14, is pretty big, and the gap between Rampage and Cornered is even bigger. So yeah, should we get to favorite and least favorite episode?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's talk about your favorite episode.
Okay.
Aftermath.
I mean, I think like I said, or I actually haven't said it this time, but I think like I've said about the Bad Batch and season 7 of the Clone Wars as well. I think this kind of Clone Wars continuation type of content, I think it's at its best when it is hitting these big moments, and it kind of falters when it has to come up with things to take up the space. So I think that it's so taut, it's so suspenseful. It does what it needs to do. It doesn't do too much more than that. Nothing's really superfluous, and then you would just have some really, really amazing sequences, like the Order 66 sequence, for instance. Like that one sequence for me is just so memorable that it bounces that episode up a ton.
I guess to talk about my number 1 is Reunion, which is just for me the definition of an epic Bad Batch episode, just in the scale of it all. I think the ion engine sequence, when they're trying to escape the ion engine of the crashed Venator, is one of the most underrated sequences in Star Wars.
That's one of the most creative, kind of out of the box.
Yeah. It's just so crazy, and the fact that it works is honestly even the crazier part. The fact that it works, and I probably. What did you say? What was that?
It doesn't feel too unbelievable. It doesn't feel too unbelievable, which is a big accomplishment.
Yeah, it's just that ridiculous. It's just that ridiculous. It's just ridiculous enough, but it's not too ridiculous. Yeah, and I know I dislike Cad Bane more than the average Star Wars fan does, but even I can't deny it. The reintroduction of Cad Bane after 10 years of not seeing him was really good. It was really well done. I remember just being so shocked when I saw it. It just really worked. There's no other way for me to describe it. it just really hit for me. I was
it was great.
It was incredibly impressed by that. The first person tracking shot of Hunter's like GUI in his helmet sort of thing after they lose Omega is like the most heartbreaking shit ever. It just packs a punch, man. It just really does for me. Let's go to your least favorite episode, which is Rampage.
It just felt like the most kind of superfluous mission of the day episodes where they're just like, oh gosh, we got a 16 episode season. We gotta find something to fill up the space. And that's just something that I think that a show like The Bad Batch, like, it just shouldn't do. Like, it's not Rebels. I think Rebels is one of the shows that can really get away with that kind of storytelling because they do such a good job of creating this found family dynamic that makes that so compelling. But I just think that that's just to me not what The Bad Batch needs to be doing, and it's frustrating to watch that happen. It just makes me feel impatient.
Yeah,
when I see it happen, and I think
I definitely feel that with my least favorite episode of The Bad Batch, Infested.
Infested. Of course.
Just you know how what you know the vitriol I have for that episode.
I do know. Is it partly insect related? Because I know you also hate any of the brain worm episodes.
No, actually, it's not. It really isn't. I have a specific thing with worms and like snake crawly thingies.
Oh, I see.
Like the slithery stuff, but no, the bugs are fine. Really, the problem with the bugs in Infested is that they're not used enough.
Yeah, they feel like a huge paper tiger. Like they just kind of fly. Like what do they just fly around and
they're built up, and then they're just like, okay, they fly now. You gotta escape from them.
They fly now. They fly now.
Fly now.
Fly now. It's one of those moments where you're just like, and then the light, like what the light bomb or whatever it is.
Yeah, the light bomb. That's cool. It takes 2 seconds, but it's cool.
Yeah, kind of feeling like we're better than this.
Yeah.
We're better.
Anything else for actually, let's get to the best character. Best character this season. Who you got?
Oh, I can't pick just one character. I think one of the things that really makes The Bad Batch great on the rewatch is every single character pretty much has something going. Like every single main character, at least, is really, really compelling and well done, I think. I'm gonna give it to Hunter because we see him do so much struggling and grappling and soul searching, and it really is remarkable for a Star Wars animated show what they did with him in this season.
That's a really great choice. For me, I remember when I saw the trailer for The Bad Batch, and it's like, oh, they got a kid with the Batch now. I'm like, okay, sure, it could be fine, could be bad. I don't know how this is gonna go. And then by the end of like the first half of Aftermath, I turned into that one meme, which is I've only known this girl for like 20 minutes, but if anything happens to her, I will kill everyone in this room and then myself.
Yeah, like I will die.
Omega is the sweetest baby girl. Omega is the sweetest baby girl, and I love her so much. And Jennifer Corbett and Brad Rao and all the writers like knocked out of the park with making her be like one of the most likable characters I've ever seen. Long does kills it every time with the performance of her, both in season 1 and now in season 2. Omega is absolutely for me the standout character of the season.
Omega steals the show so many times. You're absolutely right.
She really does, and it's not really like I love the other batch. I love all the other side characters we get. Not really particularly close. It's Omega all the way for me.
Omega's
worst characters this season.
I'm gonna go with Sid.
You don't like Sid?
It's a little bit of a cop out. I don't like Sid. I think that her kind of the way that they kind of pitch this character to the audience, like, oh, the gruff but lovable, kind of blunt tells it like it is, sarcastic kind of auntie character. it all falls apart when you realize that she is literally just like financially manipulating them and is completely remorseful. And that really, really like gets on my nerves really quickly
Yeah.
when I'm rewatching this. I'm like, are we like not supposed to like just be like really pissed off at her like
It
when we're
is a weird
watching this? Like,
relationship
are
that
we not supposed
the
to
show has with
are we
Sid.
not
I
supposed
will
to just be all in a tizzy right now?
Yeah, I will say that she does appear in the first episode of season 2 for 10 minutes, maybe. I was gonna say, like, it's not very long. It's like 5 minutes, maybe. But for me, you know what I gotta say? To quote the infamous meme, "Fuck Roland Durand. All my homies hate Roland Durand."
You're
But
not a Roland.
fuck,
You're not
and I
rolling with
cannot
Roland.
emphasize this enough. Fuck that guy. I hate him.
He is not rolling with Roland.
He is the he was the Toro Calican of the Bad Batch. I will stand by this all day and all night. Hate that guy. Really hope he doesn't return in season 2 because I still don't really understand Infested.
He's a poser.
He is a poser.
Infested was just a complete like side mission episode. No way around it.
I'm still very confused by that episode, and I want it to mean something more than it does, but it doesn't, and that makes me very irritated. Coolest new thing you noticed from the rewatch?
But Eli,
Yeah.
I need to stop you right there. There's one thing you're forgetting. There's
Okay.
one thing that what if Roland Durand is actually Snoke?
Oh my god, you just figured it out. Oh my god. Wait, what if he's Ray's mom?
Roland Durand is Ray's mom.
Confirmed.
Illuminati confirmed.
Hashtag confirmed.
So,
This all makes sense now.
Someone get Mike Zero on the phone. We're making a YouTube video. We're getting that Star Wars click. We're getting that sweet clickbait money, baby. We're making it
Dishing it out, baby. Dishing it out. Coolest new thing you've noticed from the rewatch. Go ahead.
I just the way that Omega develops through this season and the way that she grows and every kind of moment where I think for a lot of members of the Bad Batch too, for this whole the family dynamic, and obviously Hunter trying to figure out what that means for him, trying to figure out what that means for the Batch, Omega trying to figure out what that means, trying to figure out how she can fit, how she can contribute. There's so many moments, when I'm kind of trying to watch through it like more conscientiously, as you do when you're kind of have to have something to say about it. There's so many moments that just go, oh, ding ding ding, and it's such a fun thing and a sweet thing to see that dynamic because it really is heartwarming.
Yeah, no, I absolutely got that. The
So
family is extremely important to Star Wars, and it's interesting. And the specific dynamic is interestingly explored in this case.
Yeah.
So just all the little family moments. That's just what I'll say.
Yeah, I'll say, and it's not that I didn't realize about like the creep of fascism and stuff like that, but for me, the coolest thing I noticed from rewatch is that what I love is how much it ties into not just like, yeah, fascism is slowly creeping via the empire and blah blah blah, but what that actually means. Like, why is that so bad? And I'm not saying I didn't know fascism was bad, but I'm saying that, like, especially because of what's released in the past year. Like, there's that line from chapter 15 of the Mandalorian where Boba Fett is flying and he sees the Arquitens cruiser in Slave One and he goes, Fennec, this is not a spice dream. The Empire, they're back. And he says it with this horror. And it was interesting at the time, but it means so much more now that we know what the Empire, who they really are, and what they're really capable of. Like,
yeah, I think,
like for me, Andor and Obi-Wan Kenobi, but especially Andor, is why the Bad Batch matters. Like, the slow creep of fascism is important as it pertains to affecting the lives of the people of Ferrix and affecting the lives of the people who have to travel through the path on Mapuzo and Jabim and all those planets. You know, it's only as terrible as the most awful things it does to people.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
I just gained.
in a weird way, I think Andor. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Andor, I think, having watched Andor makes thinking about the Bad Batch even more interesting, like you said, because that's the effect of it, and this is kind of how it comes into place. And you know, being able to see from a show as mature, unafraid to go there as Andor, being able to have that perspective and that added weight now when you're thinking about those things, it just makes the Bad Batch that much better.
Yeah. And what I love, and this is something I heard a lot of my friends, specific shout out to friend of the show, Alden Diaz, who was saying this on Twitter, and I completely stand with him on this one. You know, he was like, you know, a lot of people have been asking me what Star Wars, if I liked Andor, what Star Wars should I watch? And he's like, watch the Bad Batch. And I wholeheartedly agree that the Bad Batch is a really great companion piece to Andor, because it answers it answers a really interesting question from Andor, which is, you know, we see this unchecked authoritarian fascist rule, and the Bad Batch covers the most extensively of how that was able to happen, how the Empire managed to set up the structures that they would later abuse towards the citizens in things like Obi-Wan Kenobi and or Star Wars Rebels, Rogue One, and the original trilogy era as a whole. And I think it's a really incredible foundational piece, and I think that it really shines here. Final question: favorite planet?
I gotta go with Camino. Hashtag rip Tipoca City.
Hashtag rip Tipoca City.
Yeah, I mean, it's where it all starts and it's where it all ends. Can't pick anything else.
Yeah. For me, I alluded to this earlier, but for me, it's Borovio. Freaking love those abandoned cloning facilities. Classic creepy sci-fi alien vibes. Love it all. Can't get enough of it. And
I really hope we go back to Borovio in season 2.
Absolutely. And actually, a planet we forgot to mention last episode that I saw you had as your background deserves an honorable mention: Wayland.
Oh yeah, the last scene, the Wayland
the last scene of Bad Batch we forgot to mention in the last episode of Bad Batch season 1, where Nala Se is taken to the cloning facilities on Wayland in Mount Tantus, which is behind Jacob as we record this. And I will say this to you, Jacob: we still don't know what happens to Nala Se. We have not seen a single second of Wayland in the first 3 episodes of the Bad Batch.
They're just gonna
they're gonna drag it out. They're going to drag it out.
So
we have not seen a single second of Wayland in season 2 yet.
What if we don't see it? What if it's only in, what if it just comes back in season 3 of The Mandalorian? If we just see like old Nala
or like
their like retirement party day.
Or like what if they like or like I'm trying to think, like what if they like tease like what if like in like the after credits theme they're like the after like the post credits scene of season 2, they're like, oh shit, we forgot about that, or we forgot about that.
They didn't. They do that.
They wouldn't forget about it unless they intentionally forget about it.
They would,
unless they were trying to make us forget about it, which good luck. But yeah, absolutely. So much exciting stuff to be covered in season 2. But in the meantime, we're talking about droid. We're going to go on with droids. Next week is a special episode. We'll figure out what that is. The week after, we'll get into droids, episodes 1 and 2, which we will be covering. In the meantime, hope y'all enjoyed Epic Confrontations 8, Big Chungus versus Bangers and Smash. I'm so glad that X Team won. I don't know, because we're recording this the day before that records. Remember that one thing in the match where that one team did the thing? That was really great. Or it sucks. I don't know. Or it sucks. I don't know. But anyway, in the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter. Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter at In a Galaxy Pod, Instagram at Star Wars in a Galaxy. You can listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'll be there. If we're not, email us, swinagalaxy@gmail.com. Also with your hot takes and questions and 6 degrees of Star Wars and trivia, all that kind of stuff. We love hearing from listeners, and leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you can. Really, to help our visibility. And until next time, may the force be with you.
Always.
Always.